If you're like me, you absolutely love you some coffee. Drink it every day. Well, I'm here to tell you about some really good stuff called The Good Stuff. It's coffee made by pro golfer Phil Mickelson and his longtime friend and golf coach Dave Phillips. If you don't know who Phil Mickelson, legendary golfer, 45 PGA Tour events, including 6 major championships. After talking with his longtime coach, Dave Phillips, they realized that Phil could benefit from some higher quality coffee to help him with all the travel and fatigue of going all around, all on these tours, traveling all the time. So if you want to give it a try, don't forget you can get 20% off your order plus free shipping and a free starter kit worth over $30 for a limited time when you visit forwellness.com/podcast. That's FOR wellness.com/podcast and enter ASP at checkout. This is For Wellness's best offer right now, so don't wait. They're so sure that you'll enjoy the benefits of adding the good stuff to your coffee that they back every purchase with a 60-day money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, you can return it for a full refund. So give it a shot.
Hey, it's me, your Uncle Cooper. Sorry to interrupt your music. I do love music, especially when it's set at a reasonable volume. You know, music is really only as good as your speakers. The same is true for minivans. A minivan is only as good as the tires it sits on. And the button on the screen there, it agrees with me. If you click on it, it'll bring you to all the Cooper minivan tires that'll make your minivan a really good minivan. Go with the Coopers! Cooper!
Hey folks, welcome to the Adventure Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Mason. This episode goes back to 2019 when we had Alex on the show talking about Thru-Hiking the Florida Trail and going by some of it, because some of it's on road, on a skateboard. I'd never heard that before. And if you haven't heard about the Florida Trail, I've talked to a lot of Thru-Hikers about a lot of different trails around the U.S. and the world. And so many of them are so surprised by how great the Florida Trail is. And I know if you're not from Florida, if you know anything about it, it's very flat, it's swampy. You don't expect much. But what I find is those places you expect the least from oftentimes are the most surprising. Like you expect mountainous areas, you expect certain parts of the country to be amazing. And when they are, it really just meets your expectation, which is great. But I love when places blow my expectation out of the water in the sense of awe and grandeur. Alaska is one of those places. I'm sure the Himalayas are, I've never been, but there's a lot of places I can talk about, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have experienced. And I think Florida is one of those places. I live here, in full disclosure. I'm from here. I'm biased, but I absolutely love it. And I will say I've been all over the world doing adventures. I have had some of the most amazing wilderness experiences right here in my home state, within miles of my home, as I have in Africa, for instance, or other parts of the world or the country. And I think it's an underappreciated area, and it's so amazing how much wilderness there still is here, how much diversity there is in the wilderness for as far as animals and plants, and how tropical and just unexpected the things you see are, and how they just don't make, headlines when it comes to stuff going on in Florida, of course. Very often the wilderness isn't in the news or in people's conscious about when they think of a place. But anyway, Alex is going to talk about that. I loved this episode. And if you need something to do in the winter, the 1,300-mile Florida Trail is right there waiting for you. I can tell you all about it. It's a great group of folks that maintain it and volunteer out there. And I would say don't discount places that you don't think are adventurous just because you don't hear about them much. Those might be the best places to go do adventures because maybe you're one of the only ones out there doing it. And I've found when I'm doing something unique like that, that can definitely add a lot to the experience. So before we jump in, don't forget that we have a giveaway going on with XPED right now. All you have to do is click on the link in the show notes or go back a couple episodes to our giveaway alert. There's a link there. And then just sign up. It's like your email and your name and your shipping address in case you win. That's all you got to do. Sign up. They're giving away 3 sleeping pads to 3 lucky winners, and they are the best sleeping pads in the business. You will feel like you're sleeping on the cloud. They're amazing products. XPED, super high quality gear. I recommend anything they have. I have a couple pieces. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump in. All right, everybody. So welcome to the show. Today, we've heard a lot recently from thru-hikers doing, the big trails, the popular ones, PCT, the AT, Continental Divide. Well, today we're going to talk about one of the lesser known, but still pretty long trail, the Florida Trail, with a guy that did it a pretty unique way. He brought a skateboard with him the whole time because a lot of it's paved. And that is Alex Fogt. Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. So you've done some of the big, well-known trails. You said the PCT. Why you choose the Florida Trail when there's just seemingly so many better trails out there?
Well, first of all, let me just say the Florida Trail is a great trail. But I am from Florida, so it was high on my list to kind of hike my own state where I'm from.
Cool. Where in Florida?
A little town called Stewart, which is near the Ocean and Lake Trail. If you're familiar with that.
Yeah, man. I'm from a little town called Frostproof. Don't know if you ever heard of it.
I actually haven't.
Okay.
That's a new one.
I've heard of Stewart, but I'm not exactly sure where it is.
It's a bit north of West Palm Beach.
Okay. All right. I'd say I'm close to like Lakeland, kind of between Orlando and Tampa.
Okay. Well, you're pretty close to the Florida Trail then.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I lived really close to it growing up. And didn't know a whole lot about it, so I'm actually super interested to get into like what it was like for you. And so, can you tell us, was this your first big hiking experience, or had you done some of the other trails first?
I started out doing the long trail. That was my first thru hike, and that was about 2 years ago. And then this last summer, I did the PCT. So those are my 2 completed thru hikes. And I've been section hiking the Appalachian Trail for a couple years now, about a third of the way done with that.
Oh, perfect. And when did you do the Florida Trail? Did you just do it this winter?
I did it this winter. I did
after the PCT.
Yeah, after the PCT.
Of the Triple Crown, I haven't done any of them. I've done parts of all of them, but the PCT just seems just amazing. Just awesome, like every bit of the diversity, and it goes through all my favorite places. Man, to go from that to the Florida Trail seems like it would be, I don't know, a lot less fun.
I think they're fun in completely different ways, but I have to admit they're about complete opposite experience. Like they're completely different experiences. You couldn't find 2 more different trails, honestly.
Yeah, well, they're on opposite coasts and to completely opposite terrains, for sure.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us some stats on the Florida Trail? Like how long is that? How long did it take you?
Some stats. Okay. Well, the thru hike that most people do is around 1,100 miles, but there are about 1,400 miles of other trails because it goes around Lake Okeechobee east and west, and it goes around Orlando east and west, and then there's the Ocean and Lake Trail. So really, the Florida Trail is a trail that's trying to connect as much possible hiking in Florida as possible. So that's kind of nice. It's not even complete yet. They're still trying to add more to it. So really the idea is to return public land to people so that they can get in touch with it. But some other stats, there's only about 21,000 feet of elevation change, which is not much compared to other ones.
Right.
And the highest point is only 272 feet. So that's not much either. But I hiked the trail in 49 days, and that's with like 6 on trail, 0 days. But I did go home for 2 weeks around Christmas time. That kind of broke up my hike, and I also flip-flopped. I started out in Pensacola, and then I flip-flopped after Christmas down to Big Cypress, and then met up where I had left off and finished in the Swanee River.
What would you say your biggest impression was of the Florida Trail?
I totally recommend it. I'll say you're never going to see the kind of wildlife and the kind of ecosystems anywhere else in America. You're going to see swamps, crazy pine forests. You're going to go to the beach. You're going to walk around a gigantic lake, and the amount of birds that you're going to see it will blow anyone away. The kind of wildlife that's out there with the alligators and the snakes and armadillos and just weird creatures. Even some animals from like Africa that have escaped people's houses, like pets that have escaped.
Oh my gosh. Is that like
there's just a bunch
snakes?
of weird stuff. Yeah, there's pythons and anacondas in the Everglades. I didn't see any of those, luckily. But yeah, there's just it's a whole different kind of ecosystem than the rest of the country.
And I imagine as far as hiking, there's probably a completely different culture around the trail. Like I know with the PCT and the AT, there's just this super ingrained culture with the Appalachian Trail that's really cool to be a part of. I guarantee that doesn't exist to that degree on the Florida Trail.
It's true. The culture doesn't compare to the Pacific Crest Trail or the AT. And on the first half of my entire hike, I didn't see a single hiker that was doing the Florida Trail.
Wow.
But there are a lot of diehard trail angels out there. So there's definitely a lot of volunteers. The whole trail is volunteer maintained. And in some of the drier sections, you'll find a lot of water caches. And a lot of the trail angels will go out of their way to try to find you and help you out.
So just probably because there's just so few people out there doing it. They really want to, if you're going to do it, they want to help you out. Make sure you can get it done.
Yeah, I think about 100 people finish the trail end to end every year, maybe more now.
Wow. So you said in the first half you didn't see anybody. How about the second half? Did you see anyone doing the trail?
The second half, I started at the southern terminus and hiked north. And so that was after New Year's, which is kind of the traditional time that most people start out with. So there was a lot more people. Definitely wasn't crowded, but there were people to hike with and a lot more going on after New Year's going north. I would definitely recommend that if you want a more social experience. If you go southbound, you're going to be alone a lot.
So, you mentioned the wildlife being unique, and it definitely is, man. If you haven't been to Florida, it's a trippy place. There's so much going on with these just prehistoric looking alligators to the ocean kind of culture to just all the birds. There's like you said, billions of freaking birds flying around and unique trees and these ferns on the ground and cypress trees. It's really cool. It's really unique. But I guess as far as an experience, did it feel like the same adventure as some of these other longer trails you've done? Or did it, I don't know, did it feel the same as far as this is a true adventure?
If you're looking for a true adventure, I definitely think this is a true adventure. The amount of uncomfortable situations and the amount of thrilling experiences there's just as many on this trail as anywhere else. I mean, not a day went by that I wasn't like freaked out by something or there's definitely a lot of scary experiences with poisonous snakes and really intense weather and just alligators pretty much all the time. So many alligators in Florida.
What about people?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the One of the things I think people should really understand before they start the Florida Trail is that you're going to be hiking through a lot of wilderness areas with hunters. And so they might be most of the people that you'll encounter on trail are people with shotguns and rifles and sidearms and stuff like that. So one of my more infamous stories of the trail, I was walking out of the Wasilla River because it was really flooded. It was like water up to my belly button. So I walked out to a road, and as I'm walking towards this truck with some hunters, one of the hunters says to me, I just want to let you know you're lucky to be alive right now. I had you in my sights. I was ready to blow you away. You weren't wearing enough like blaze orange. So like, you're lucky to be alive, kid.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a weird thing to say.
Yeah, I was like, thank you. I don't know if he was messing with me or something, but I would say like 99% of the people aren't like that, though. I think he was just kind of an asshole. But yeah, so you're sharing a lot of the places with Floridians, and Floridians, as probably a lot of people know, are infamously crazy.
Let's take a quick message break and hear from the folks that help make this show possible. Right now, every new hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for a small business. It could be the difference between making it or not, especially right now. And so you want to be 100% certain that you have the best qualified candidates available. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, because LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I have used LinkedIn to look for jobs and to post jobs, and it is pretty amazing how much more quickly I'm able to get good candidates there. Their just searchability and their ability to set up things like job alerts and find the right people for you is really powerful stuff for your business. And by the way, at LinkedIn Jobs, you can find the qualified candidates you want to talk to by posting your job for free at linkedin.com/ASP. That's linkedin.com/ASP to post your jobs for free. Terms and conditions apply. So let's finish this year strong using LinkedIn Jobs to find your next candidate. As all of you know, when it comes to getting ready for an adventure or actually doing the adventure, it usually involves a credit card of some sort. Credit card is just easier than cash to deal with a lot of the times. It's lighter. That's very important on a lot of adventures. But believe it or not, there's actually a credit card called the Aspiration Zero credit card that can help you tackle your negative impact on the climate just by using it. It's the first credit card that fights climate change by planting trees with every swipe. And the way it works is simple. With an Aspiration Zero credit card, you plant 2 trees with every purchase you make. And 2 trees soak up about the same amount of carbon dioxide in the air as the average American puts out every day. Not only do you help the planet when you swipe the card, you also get another green reward too. Cash money, baby. Unlimited 1% cash back on all your monthly purchases when you hit carbon zero for the month. So as you start buying things for that next adventure, or you're on the adventure and you use your card, you can know that you're offsetting a lot of what you're doing. So make your dollars make a difference. Apply for the Aspiration Zero credit card today and earn a $300 welcome bonus after spending $3,000 in the first 90 days. Apply right now at aspiration.com/ASP to go carbon neutral effortlessly and earn a $300 bonus. Go to aspiration.com/ASP. Aspiration Zero MasterCard is issued by Beneficial State Bank, pursuant to license by MasterCard International Incorporated. Good credit required. Terms and conditions apply. That is plenty of that for now. Let's get back into the episode. It just does seem to be pretty concentrated in Florida. And I just thought, wow, this is weird. This isn't normal. And I go back home with this new perspective. And I will say, man, anytime I do an adventure in Florida, I do feel like I'm one of the only people out there, which is a cool experience in a way. Yeah,
it's definitely a whole different place once you go about 20 miles inland. I mean, the beaches and the shoreline, that's where all the population density is. And then once you get inland even just a little bit, besides Orlando, it's just a whole kind of redneck vibe. I feel bad saying that.
Hey, dude, I'm from Polk County. My family there's a lot of rednecks in my family, and they're very proud of it, and I love them to death. But it's a vibe that a lot of people don't realize is in Florida. Were you surprised by the amount of hunters that were out there? Because I find a lot of people don't look at Florida as a hunting location, but it is a huge culture down there.
I wasn't too surprised. I had done the Ocean to Lake Trail a year prior, and we saw a lot of hunters out there. So I kind of knew they were out there, but I wasn't expecting, to be aimed at.
Golly, man, that is too crazy. So tell us about what did you do? Why did you decide to skateboard so much of the trail? Is that something that you just wanted to be unique about, or you saw it as like an efficient use of energy and time?
I guess coming off of the PCT, it was, such a long journey, and I really missed my skateboard a lot doing that trip. So I thought the novelty of bringing it with me would be kind of fun. And I had just heard a lot of people say that the road walks were pretty long on the Florida Trail. So it just kind of made sense in my head. I don't know if I would recommend that other people do it, but for me, it worked out pretty well. I was able to kind of, do tricks in my free time if I found a special spot. So the kind of idea was to hike and then also film tricks as I was able to.
You just don't see many through hikers with the skateboard. I mean, of course, it's not possible on most trails, but the Florida Trail, I guess, has that unique ability. Wow, that is too funny. So did you ever get to the point where you just tired of carrying it, or was it like, no, this thing's pretty useful?
It was honestly pretty useful. The only time it was really stressful was if you had to bushwhack pretty hard, it could get tangled up pretty easily, or wedged between cypress trees. Or the other times would be if I was skating and I just ate shit and fell really hard, because you could injure yourself pretty easily skateboarding, obviously.
Right. Did you have to replace any parts on it, or was it good to go for the whole hike?
I made a couple choices to switch out some wheels, and I switched out the board after Christmas just to kind of keep it a little fresher. But yeah, I tried to make an ultralight skateboard at first, but that didn't work out at all. Skateboards are just really heavy. Mine was 5.2 pounds.
Oh man, yeah, for a backpacker, that's a lot of weight to commit to a vessel, a vehicle.
Yeah, it was a lot to commit to, but I was able to do like a few 40-mile days on the road walks. So it paid for itself.
Yeah. So with a full skateboard day, you could do like 40 miles.
I think I could probably do farther. I didn't even really have to try that hard to do 40. Honestly, I think I was doing 40 before like 3:00.
Wow.
It would just just didn't feel like going anymore. I bet you could do a 60 or a 70 if you really got up early and skated all day.
Man, that is something. I did not know that, man. That's like a day on the bicycle, honestly.
Yeah, I guess you could think about it that way. I mean, people go really far on bikes, and you can go at least like 10 miles an hour pretty consistently. No, that's pretty fast. Probably like 6 miles an hour pretty consistently on a skateboard.
Wow. I know that for bike trips, people kind of shoot for between 50 and 100 miles. Most people settle on like 70, 80 miles a day. So dang, to do that on the skateboard is pretty efficient. Exactly. Yeah. And then you don't have to drag a bike through the woods or the swamp either. Yeah. Wow. So, with the Florida Trail, I just feel like it's going to be more popular as thru-hiking continues to get more popular, because more and more people are just going to want to do things that are a little out of the box. What were some of the things that really separated Florida from the other trails you've done, as far as maybe did you feel more like a trailblazer or anything? Did you feel more like alone or lonely? I mean, what were some of those unique aspects of it that you maybe didn't foresee when you were first starting to plan this trip?
Well, I guess one thing that makes it really unique is that you can hike it in wintertime. So where most people are, planning their next through hikes, you can be hiking pretty much like October to people are finishing now, and it's March. So it's a great wintertime trail. And sorry, what's the question again? What makes it different?
Oh, no. Yeah, well, just what makes it different? And then maybe what were some of the things that you just didn't foresee being a part of it, were a part of the trail, a part of the trip?
Another thing is that you wouldn't expect it, but the Florida Trail can be really cold if you're hiking it this time of year or, February. I woke up with frost on me quite a few times. The water that you're walking through is also very freezing. So if you're walking through a swamp and it's 40 degrees outside, that's some really cold water. And there's not really a way to see that coming. And you can't really get around it. You just have to walk through water so much. And when it's cold, it's pretty uncomfortable. You're not going to wear like a wetsuit or something like that, obviously.
No. Yeah, the cold down there is bitterly cold because of the moisture a lot of times. People don't realize that a 30-degree day in Florida is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, the whole panhandle, you're basically almost in Georgia.
Yeah, and Georgia gets, bitterly cold.
Yeah, ask any Appalachian Trail hiker starting nowadays if they're
exactly.
if they're warm.
Exactly. Yeah, really. I mean, we've got some people that listen to the show that are on the AT right now, and they're posting pictures, and it is just looks like a blizzard going on. And golly, and that, yeah, you're right. At the top of the Florida Trail, the northernmost portion, you're just probably an hour's drive from the border, if not closer.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone hikes the Florida Trail in the summertime because then it would be deathly hot. That'd be another thing. I'd be amazed if someone did it in the summertime.
Oh man, yeah. Now is it bikeable? Do you know?
I don't believe so. There's just no way you could bring a bike through some of those areas.
Unless
you'd have
you
to
were
carry
willing to just
a
carry
bike
it.
above your shoulders. Yeah, or you got I don't know, if you could float your bike somehow.
I mean, how is the scenery? Because you can't see as far. I've done plenty of hiking in Florida. It's these beautiful open pine forests, these huge oak canopies, and then these swamps and just scrub oak forests. What do you think about the beauty on the trail?
Some of the beauty's pretty unrivaled. I mean, the live oaks, they're this type of oak tree where the branches, they just dip into the earth and then shoot back up again. And they just do all these crazy kind of like architectural shapes. They're amazing trees. And then you get to go walk the beach around Navarre and Pensacola. And that's just a world-class beach. It's, white sand, soft as baby powder. There's no real condos or anything. It's just a wild, wild beach. That was an amazing part. And then probably my favorite section was around St. Mark's, which is really in the Gulf of Mexico almost. It dips down to the Gulf for a second. And I don't know what it looks like. Maybe it looks like Vietnam or something. It looks totally different than anywhere else in Florida or America for sure. Then also you have Big Cypress down in the Everglades, and that's just a whole unique sort of vibe too with these huge cypress domes. I mean, I know we don't have mountains, but you have these huge domes of cypress trees that stand up on the horizon, and they look like mountains the way they form. So there's some really interesting stuff. And then you also have the sinkholes and the springs in Ocala and Juniper Springs. So there's just all sorts of weird geography in Florida. A lot of limestone karst geography on the Suwannee River too. So it's just ecologically super diverse in a way that you're not expecting it.
It's an incredibly tropical place down south, and then it transitions into this, like you said, almost like into Georgia. And not only that, but you're kind of intersecting northern Florida with where you go on the beach on the trail, and it's actually hiking on the beach, which has to be just such a cool experience.
Yeah, I think that makes the northbound experience probably more worth it, because then you're finishing on the beach, and that's pretty awesome. It's a great place to finish if you're going Novo.
Yeah, and definitely like Florida-esque, you know.
Yeah,
it's so appropriate.
It's got a great northern terminus for sure.
So what are the more mundanes of the Florida Trail, mundane parts of the Florida Trail compared to maybe a mundane day on the PCT? How do those differ?
I don't know. I guess it depends on what you consider mundane, but I guess maybe something you'd have to expect is the trail goes pretty close to Orlando. So you do a bit of an urban hike around there. So you're walking past strip malls and kind of like major pieces of infrastructure, which I think for most people would probably like kind of bum them out. But as a skateboarder, it made it kind of nice because I was able to just skate right through Orlando, and I did a lot of tricks in that area. And you can also eat anything you want, which is another great part of the trail. Maybe it's mundane, but on the Florida Trail, you don't really need to carry more than 2 days of food ever if you're hiking fast enough. So that made it really nice. So you're able to eat a lot of like Whataburger or like some of these Southern cuisine things, a lot of fried food, unfortunately. But there's a lot of opportunities to eat town food.
It's not going to be like a complete wilderness experience like maybe somewhere in Alaska, but those types of experiences can be really just awesome in their own way. I've definitely had trips that were more, I don't know, closer to communities that made it easier to resupply, but they were just still stick out in my mind memorably as just as awesome as some of the more extreme trips, you know? I don't know how it's that for you too.
It's definitely like logistically a very simple trail, which is nice. You don't have to stress out about your mileage or how much your backpack weighs. So if you have your gear dialed in, then your backpack's going to be pretty light.
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you think more people should do it then, or more people should look into it for a winter option?
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone should do it. Yeah, I think a lot of like the Florida Trail Association, they would love to see more hikers on it. I think everyone would love to see it get used more. There's tons of day hikers out there. It's more, I think we aren't seeing enough through hikers, but I'm sure it'll change. Hiking seems to be taking off nowadays.
Yeah. It's growing, man, and people just are wanting less stuff in the outdoors, like less engines to take care of and machinery to go play on, and more simple human-powered ways of experiencing the outdoors. And so hiking has really seen a huge growth in the last decade, really, but especially in the last few years. And I think it's great. Yeah, it's awesome, man. I love it because, it's not loud. It's not like, I'm glad airboats aren't taking off. You probably haven't heard enough of those out there on the Florida Trail. Those things are loud as hell.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of airboats in the southern half. And the other thing you get to see out there is swamp buggies, which they're kind of annoying because they just shred the earth up. So, sometimes you'll be walking in some tore up swamp buggy, ATV course, basically.
Florida is such a weird place. Just, yeah, you're right. There's these monster trucks essentially that are like 2 stories tall, and you sit on top and peer out over all the swamp, and they have these tires on them that are like tractor tires, and you're right, it just destroys the land underneath it, and it's just such a strange thing. You know what I mean? Like, where else do those exist? It's a weird place.
Yeah, it's really weird. I would probably normally be bummed on that, but then I also have to be thankful that those people are letting the hikers kind of hike through their property. So you have to kind of like deal with it, because if it wasn't for those people in the swamp buggies, you might not have the opportunity to be hiking through that area.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's interesting. So how did since you got to see more people than you usually would, as far as like connect with more communities than a lot of trails, what did you tell a lot of people what you were doing, and what was the reaction most of the time when people found out you were through hiking the Florida Trail And then you had a skateboard on your backpack too.
Yeah, it's a bit different because there's not that sort of trail town sort of vibe like on the AT. So
Right.
most people have never seen a hiker in that area or a person, with like a backpack. Like they're seriously trying to like camp day after day. So I think a lot of people think you're like kind of like a vagabond or a homeless person.
Oh yeah.
So you do have to kind of explain yourself, like, yep, I am a Florida trail hiker, and it's this trail that goes from Pensacola to Big Cypress. And most people are pretty freaked out by that thought because it is like it's a pretty far out idea to hike the whole state of Florida. Floridians definitely would have a frame of reference how difficult that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that doesn't cross most people's minds ever that's even a possibility, much more so when there hasn't been a culture built around it yet. I mean, we talked to a guy a couple weeks ago. He was paragliding from mountain to mountain peak in Alberta, or actually it was British Columbia, and he would paraglide down to a gas station and resupply everything he needed. People were like, "What are you doing?" And he would tell them, and it was like, they didn't even know what to say. So they were like, "Oh, cool." And he was like, there was just no way for them to grasp what I was actually doing because it's so huge, such a huge trip. You know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah,
for
that's
people
amazing.
in Florida, like it's really hard to, people just don't do that kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's not normal. So when you say I'm walking literally 1,200 or 1,100 miles, it's mind boggling.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well be paragliding out here or something. That's,
Right.
that's crazy.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I think it's hard for people to believe that there's a trail that's close to 1,500 miles in one state. That's more than half this length of the AT, and it's only in one state.
Yeah, exactly. Florida is a big state, so you got to give it credit. You got to show it some respect for sure. It's not a short trail, although people can do it pretty quickly because there's a lack of altitude. But there's certain places that will just slow you down a lot. I know this year, I think there was like 3 FKT attempts, and no one was able to even finish their FKTs, finish their through hikes because of the challenges that were presented to them, unfortunately.
What are some of the challenges that are unique to it? Let's take a quick message break and hear from the folks that help make this show possible. That is plenty of that for now. Let's get back into the episode.
Well, this year was an exceptionally hard year, I would say, for the Florida Trail because of Hurricane Michael in the Panhandle. So I'm sure most people are aware that happened this last summer, but it devastated Panama City Beach. And so a lot of the trail was what I would consider completely unhikeable. I mean, you could try to do it, but I know a lot of people were road walking or taking alternates around some of that devastated area. But imagine an entire pine tree forest just all folded down, just every tree broken, huge trees just all on their sides. So that's, to me, I would not want to bushwhack, 50 miles through a trail entirely made of blowdowns. So that was pretty tough. And then around the Wasilla and the Suwannee River, there was so much rain that the trail was flooded. I mean, your typical blaze like on the Appalachian Trail is usually at like eye level or around your face. Some of the blazes that I saw were almost underwater. So when I saw those, I was like, I'm not walking in that. I'm gonna go around because you would literally have to swim. So I think that made it pretty tough this year. But that's not typical. That was kind of a seasonal rain. So I think the water has gone down since that. But yeah, things like that could happen for sure.
Man, we just around the first of the year, my wife and I drove through. She lived in near Apalachicola when we met on St. George Island, and we drove through that forest right there. near St. Mark's, and holy cow, she was crying because it was where she used to always go hiking out in Tate's Hell. And it was just like you said, it was like 10, 15 feet off the ground, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of pine trees broken off and laying down. It looked like a crop circle of giant trees, like where they all just been bent over at the same place perfectly, facing the same direction.
And that's already supposedly the hardest part of the Florida Trail too. So
and why is
it just
that?
got it just got even harder. It's infamously swampy. The Bradwell Bay swamp is, I think it's kind of always wet in that area. But this year, I mean, I'm sure it was just even worse. I hiked around Apalachicola, or actually not hiked. I skateboarded to Tallahassee and then shot down to St. Mark's because I didn't want to go through all those blown down trees.
Yeah, man, I don't blame you one bit. Jeez, I have to ask this because we've been talking about how kind of strange Florida is, and I've done a lot of like weekend trips and growing up, just a lot of camping in Florida, and that was where kind of my love for the West and the nature was built. And I have to say, man, I had this really weird view of the wilderness growing up there because how just strange Florida is. Anytime we went way out in the woods or went, on a kayaking trip down some real remote river or a hike or backpacking trip, we always ran into just something super bizarre, like some old abandoned like crack house or meth lab. I remember one time I was running, we were hiking through the woods and we ran across this couple that looked like they were from another planet. They were so like strung out, and it was really freaky. And like looking back, it was funny because it scared us half to death, and they were cool, but you could just tell they were living out there. And then like 30 miles from anything, it felt like. Did you see a lot of that? Because there are shelters and stuff along the trail. Did you run across any just, bizarre characters that made you uncomfortable, or just weird stuff in general?
Luckily I didn't have any dangerous encounters with that except for like the gun thing. But I ran into one guy once. Yeah, I was doing a road walk and I saw a tent set up kind of like right off the side of the road. So I thought that's kind of odd. And I still, like I said earlier, I hadn't seen a single hiker yet. So I walked up to the tent and I just kind of said like, "Hey, are you a hiker?" And this guy's like, oh, hey, yeah, 1 second. He came out of his tent. We talked for a while. He was wearing, blue jeans and a vest. So I kind of got the idea that he wasn't a thru hiker. And we started like talking about the map and where we were. And he thought he was 100 miles away from where we actually were. He was so far away. He was so far away from where he thought he was. So I'm glad I ran into him because I was able to kind of orient him a little bit better. But that was a different situation. And he actually warned me about, the kind of people you're talking about. There's a certain thing in Florida called the rainbow people, which I guess they are kind of like a community that lives on public lands. And I think for the most part, they're supposed to be nice. They're kind of like ex-hippies, but I guess they have a reputation of having some bad apples in their community. People who, do hard drugs and maybe steal. So I know that they're out there, and I know some other hikers encountered the rainbow people. So yeah, you got to be aware that that's out there.
Dude, that is so good. I remember my dad telling me about the rainbow people. That is
yeah, they're real.
Like the rainbow family or something. That is crazy. I've heard of them being out in like Ocala National Forest. He used to warn me out in Lakeland. He goes, "Man, I love to trail run, or used to, and bike." And he's like, "Man, be careful out in those woods particular because there's all kinds of weird people out there." And sure enough, you'd hear stories every once in a while of things coming out of there and crazy stuff happening.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ocala is where the Rainbow Society resides.
Man, Florida, what a place. What a place. It is so unique.
Yeah, super unique. Definitely thrilling.
It definitely gets me excited to try to do it because, what else are you going to do all winter? And everyone's waiting on their trails to thaw out. This would be great for through hikers to stay in shape, to stay fit and active, and have a totally unique experience.
Exactly, yeah. And another thing I thought was really great about the Florida Trail is the kind of hiker that wants to attempt it. Usually they have a couple through hikes under their belt. So you meet a lot of really accomplished backpackers out there. And that was just a pleasure to talk to people that have done other trails, or, maybe I ran into a couple people that I met on the PCT in Florida. It was, unbelievable. Hiked with this guy, Lorax, and he had done the PCT the same time as me. And I think I met him once out there. So that was really cool. So just talking to backpackers on the Florida Trail, you're going to have a great time talking to the other hikers.
Yeah, that you'll have a good time talking to the 7 other hikers that you see on the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, man, I'm just playing. So was the trail easy to follow? Was it, well marked, or because it seems like it's probably a conglomerate of all sorts of trails?
The Florida Trail is surprisingly well blazed. The volunteers that maintain it, they do an especially good job, just because the landscape changes so quickly between storms and the kind of the natural decay of the woods. It has to be maintained a lot more seriously than other trails. So at some points you might even consider it overblazed. But I understand that's just because things fall down so quickly out there.
That wet, hot sun, man, can destroy.
Exactly, yeah. But fortunately, it's quite easy to follow. Just definitely enough blazes out there for anyone.
That's awesome, man. So any other stories that you have that are just kind of funny or unique from this experience that kind of stick out to you?
One thing that I wanted to mention is, I carried a skateboard the whole trail. But this other hiker, I believe his name was the Mayor, he carried his blind dog on his shoulders the whole trip, which I think is just so cool.
How big was this
dog? It was, I think it was one of those Shiba Inus, the Japanese kind of dog. Yeah. But it was, just this adorable poor dog with no eyeballs. And he just carried it around his neck. And he brought it from Everglades all the way to Pensacola. And I think he finished just a couple days ago or something like that. But wow. His dog's name was the dog's name's Katana. And following his hike on Instagram was pretty awesome. I think it's cooler than bringing a skateboard, honestly.
Yeah, you can't ride the blind dog, but yeah, I mean,
no. But that was really special.
That is cool.
So good job to him. I think that's great.
Yeah, man. I hope the dog enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Probably got what are we doing? I'm tired of getting on your back every day for God knows how long.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Anything else? Any other encounters? I mean, did you said you saw a lot of gators? That's got to be a trip.
Yeah, I would say the scariest situation, not actually dangerous, but on about your, actually, I don't even know if I should say this because it's kind of a spoiler, but somebody left a styrofoam alligator on the trail, kind of in a blind spot. So you turn your head and there's this, what you think is a real gator just right next to you. And, it scared the shit out of me. I think a lot of people got the crap scared out of them by that thing. I don't want to make it a spoiler, but that was a good one.
Wow. What's funny is I saw a picture of that.
Yeah.
There was a picture online and I was like, is that really right there? Did they catch that right there? And, of course it must've been that fake because it looked terrifying.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then, it's just the gators in general are awesome. I remember at one spot on the Kissimmee River, I went to go down there to get some water for the evening. And I looked out there and it was like, I don't know if it's like that video game, but it was like you could walk across their heads. There were so many alligators, and one of them took off, and it was like a boat wake in the water. It must have been like a 20-foot gator or something. It was massive, and definitely made me a little bit nervous getting that water that night.
As it should, man. Those things, they demand respect. It looks, if you've never seen an alligator up close, it looks like a dinosaur, alive and breathing right in front of you with the power of speaking of which, I was going to say the power of like a mountain lion. Did you see any Florida panthers?
Unfortunately, the only one I saw was in Billy's Swamp Safari, which is kind of like a little zoo in the Everglades, and it was in a cage, and it was pretty fat and lazy.
Okay, well,
but
hopefully
that was the
it's
only
happy.
one I saw.
I mean, I didn't expect you. They're very, very rare to see. There's only like 20 of them or something.
Yeah, I know that they've been spotted though. They're out there supposedly, so you might get lucky.
Obviously, I'm homesick for it, but it looks like just such a cool, unique experience. Like, I don't know about you, but anytime I do something that feels like maybe a little lesser known, it feels more adventurous than doing something that's popular and established, and that is something that lots of people do. So I've done bike trips, and if I do a trail that other people have done, or if it's an event especially, I don't know, there's this totally different aspect when you know that you're maybe one of only a couple people doing that at the same time. So I can imagine that this trail gives you that sensation.
Yeah. There's definitely a certain kind of camaraderie with any other hiker that you're going to meet out there. You're going to really get each other. Everybody out there was so nice. It was so cool to talk to people out there.
Wow, that's so cool. Well, man, if you don't have anything else you'd like to share, I just want to say thank you for being on the show, and thank you for taking the time to talk about it again.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, great talking with you. And everybody, check it out. Check out the Florida Trail.
Check out the Florida Trail. Do not sleep on the Florida Trail, because you're going to be bored as heck one winter and need a trail to do. And this will be the only one not completely frozen over.
Exactly.
Well, cool. So last question. Is there anything you've got going on your horizon that's going to be adventurous coming up? And how can people follow you and get a hold of you?
I am about to start doing some more section hikes on the Appalachian Trail, and I'm also trying to section hike the New York Long Path this year. That goes from New York City, where I'm living right now, up to the Adirondacks near Albany. So I'm looking forward to starting that soon. And then if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at Alex Fogt. Fogt is spelled Fogt. And I also have a hiking blog called freefreakshike.com. And we have a pretty sweet skateboard hiking hybrid video that you should check out, and kind of a little write-up of the trail. And I do that blog with my hiking buddy, Jake, who I did the PCT with this last summer. So check that out.
Cool, man. Yeah, I watched that little video. That was great. And I was like, oh, man, I totally need to talk to this guy. This looks fantastic. What a cool way to incorporate another passion, you know?
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun to make.
Good. Sorry, what did you say the trail was you're doing in New York?
The New York Long Path starts at 172nd Street in Manhattan.
Wow. Now, is that at all in association with the Trans Adirondack route?
No, but I bet you could connect them if you had that much gusto. I heard the Trans Adirondack's pretty tough.
Yeah, we just had the creator of that, Eric Schlemmer, I believe. Yeah, Eric Schlemmer. He kind of put it all together, and there's a lot of like bushwhacking in it, or it's off trail navigation, only like 6 or 7 miles of it. But they're a tough 6 or 7 miles, and it's 235 miles through the Adirondacks, and he's like, it has a pretty high failure rate right now.
I bet respect to anybody who's completing that. That's crazy. That's a crazy one.
Man, I guess when it's just off trail, it makes it pretty difficult, because he's like, a lot of people will do the AT, then jump on that and quit about halfway through.
Yeah. I've been to the Adirondacks. I could see how it could really mess you up.
Wow. Well, appreciate you sharing. I hope I didn't repeat too many of the questions that you had before.
Oh no, I think this was a lot of new ground cover. So yeah, it was my pleasure being on here, Mason. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, and yeah, look forward to following you.
Awesome, cool. Well, have a good night.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah, all right. Good night.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
First of all, thank you so much for listening. It means the world to us that you choose to listen to this show. If you'd like to help us further, you can leave a review on iTunes, share us with your friends, your family. It goes a long way to growing the show. You can also support us financially through patreon.com/adventuresportspodcast. Link is in the show notes. And also, if you have an idea of who could be a good guest for the show, we're always looking for people to tell their story about the outdoors or adventure. So if you know someone, please reach out. Email us at info@adventuresportspodcast.com. And until then, get out there and have some fun.
Hey, it's me, your Uncle Cooper. Sorry to interrupt your music. I do love music, especially when it's set at a reasonable volume. You know, music is really only as good as your speakers. The same is true for minivans. A minivan is only as good as the tires it sits on. And the button on the screen there, it agrees with me. If you click on it, it'll bring you to all the Cooper minivan tires that'll make your minivan a really good minivan. Go with the Coopers! Cooper!
We all have a lot on our plates. Work, kids, relationships. And sometimes it can be hard to just catch a breath. When life is go, 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 it matters where you stay. Hilton's family of brands is team members dedicated to making you feel truly cared for, so you can mentally check out before you even check in. Take the break you deserve and book your next stay on Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay.